Thank you. Right after the election, Senator McCain and I met with President-elect Obama in Chicago. We tried to create an agenda for his presidency in his first year. One of the areas of discussion was coming up with a plan to close Guantanamo Bay. During that campaign, Senator McCain and Senator Obama both suggested that we should close the prison because it was hurting us image-wise, and see if we could find a way to move the prisoners inside the United States consistent with being at war. 6 years ago, I can't remember the date, but I'll get it to you, I met twice with the president in the Oval Office. And he said, go home and write out what you think the statute would look like. I did. It was 1.5 pages. I didn't want to create a political document. I wanted to create an outline statutorily that would give the executive branch great leeway, but recognize that people could be held under the law of war and that we were looking for a site in the United States. I was going to stand with the president along with Senator McCain. Rahm Emanuel helped broker this. And it sort of went like this. We're going to move KSM back into military commissions. It was a bad idea to put him in civilian court in New York. And the trade-off was that we'd come up with a way to move the prisoners from Gitmo inside the United States with a statute that allowed for indefinite law of war detention with adequate due process. I've yet to hear a response after drafting that legislation. I've been told numerous times in the last 6 years, we're serious about it, we're going to send you something over. What they've sent is a political document. This is a political exercise to check a block for a president who made a promise that he can't fulfill. Why can't he fulfill it? Because he hasn't led. There was a time when presidential leadership would have allowed the closing of Guantanamo Bay. There was a time when Senator McCain and myself would have stood with the president to close this facility, open up a new one inside the United States that adheres to our values and recognizes we're at war. That time period is past, and it's unfortunate. The president could never pull the trigger because the left doesn't like the idea of indefinite detention, and he had a hard time rallying his people around a statute that clearly put forward a plan that recognized we're a nation at war and an enemy combatant is not a common criminal. So we're here today in the last months of his administration checking a political block. And from that day when we first met to now, our foreign policy is in complete free fall. Our intelligence gathering capabilities have been severely neutered. We haven't put one person in enemy combatant status in the last 7 years. We captured bin Laden's son-in-law. We kept him on a ship for about 2 weeks. We put him in Article III court and read him his Miranda rights. No one's been held over 30 days under the law of war since President Obama's been president. How did we find bin Laden? The people in Guantanamo Bay were interrogated, some abused, but 99% done right, and were able to put together the puzzle because law of war detention allows you over a period of time to collect information and gather intelligence. Reading someone their Miranda rights is not how you interrogate enemy prisoners. It's how you deal with somebody charged with a crime. So what's happened here is that we've gone from trying to close Guantanamo Bay to turning the war into a crime. We're losing valuable intelligence because this president can't lead. He can't create a pathway forward for a nation who's trying to correct his past mistakes. No one has spoken out more than Senator John McCain against torture and abuse of detainees on Bush's watch. The Detainee Treatment Act was a bipartisan piece of legislation authored by Senator McCain and myself that corrected abuses under the Bush administration. The pathway was clear to close Guantanamo Bay, but you had to embrace the fact we're a nation at war and tell the left something they didn't want to hear. We were going to tell the right something they didn't want to hear. There is an alternative to this jail. We had 400,000 German prisoners in the United States during World War II. We took 50,000 of the hardest Nazis off the British hands and housed them in America. So you'll never convince me that we can't do this. Now we find ourselves months before a new election with a proposal that is a joke. A proposal that is not specific. The only thing specifically I can tell you, not one person will go to Charleston, South Carolina. So here's what I want to do. I want to take this proposal and have a hearing about it because it's gibberish. And I want everybody who has a better idea to come forward. I have written a statute that I think will work. I gave it to the president 6 years ago. John McCain has led intensely on this. It is now time for those in the Congress who believe we should go close Guantanamo Bay to come up with a plan. To my Democratic colleagues, if you got a better idea than President Obama's, put it forward. To Republican colleagues, if you have a better idea, put it forward. In conclusion, the war has gotten out of hand. The spread of international terrorism is greater today than it was in January 2009 when he took office. There are more terrorist groups with capability to hit the homeland, men, equipment, and money than any time since 9/11. And our response has been to reduce our ability to defend the nation, shut down the military's ability to modernize, and shut off intelligence gathering apparatuses that were in existence, that were adhering to our values. In essence, we have stopped the ability of this country to defend itself by gathering intelligence in a proper way to prevent the next attack. So this is not a plan to close Guantanamo Bay. This is a political exercise, and it's masking for leadership at the very end when there's never been leadership at the very beginning.
Questions?